Welcome back to another review by Mega Train Leather. Today we're having a look at a Bachmann model, as you can see, and you can easily tell from the text on the box, and you've guessed from the title as well, that this is a Class 45, or a peak as they're known. So, we'll look at the box first. So as you can see, the locomotive is not in the box, it's been taken out, running, etc. But if you look to the side, you can see the product code is 32681. It's a Class 45, number D108 in British Railways green, with the split centre head code, and it's weathered as well. So you might be thinking, what's split centre head code? Well, it's not the split head code where you've got the two head codes either side of the one on the driver's side, one on the second man's side. Both of the head codes are in the middle, but they're not joined together like on the Class 47, for example. You'll see what I mean on the model itself. Now, we'll talk about the model first. You might be thinking, hold on a second, I distinctly remember you've done a review of the Class 45 before. I have. That particular model, it was one of the earlier Bachmann toolings. Now, Bachmann have done the peaks for many, many years. The model I had was about 20 years old at the time I purchased it, and while it was good, it wasn't fully up to the same standards. So I ended up selling that model, and I saw this one for a very, very good price, and I brought it. And this is much more up to date in terms of features, detail, etc. So we'll have a talk about the real-life locomotives now. The Class 45, I'm only going to be talking about the 45s. I am fully aware, as most of you should be, there are two other types which look practically the same with subtle differences, the Class 44 and the 46. All three classes are collectively known as peaks, but in this instance we're only going to be talking about the 45s because that's the model we're looking at. So the Class 45, there were 127 of these built between 1960 and 1962, and they were built at both Derby Works and Crewe Works by British Rail. They're mainly worked on the Midland Mainline. They were allocated mostly to Cricklewood, Holbeck and Towton. Towton was their main shed. That's where the majority of them were allocated. They did do other work as well off the Midland Mainline. They did a lot of the Northern Transpennine stuff. They went over to Blackpool, and they did turns to Newcastle as well. So they did spread their horizons quite a bit, but their main line of work was on the Midland Mainline. They were mixed traffic, so you could see them on passenger trains mostly, but they also hauled goods trains occasionally. The withdrawals of the class started after the HSDs were introduced onto the Midland Mainline, and they were withdrawn between 1981 and 1988. The final member of the class was withdrawn in 1989. Thankfully though, a few of them have been preserved, 11 to be exact, and there is one which I know very well. There's one at the Great Central Railway, which is number D123, and there's also one at the East Lancashire Railway, and there's one on the main line as well. I forgot its number, but there's definitely one that's running on the main line at the moment. But 11 Class 45s preserved. That's quite a nice number. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put the box to one side, and we'll have a look at the locomotive itself, which is right here. Now, it's very long and very heavy, so I'm going to be very, very careful with it. Wow. Wow. What can I say? I mean, it looks stunning. The livery application on it is spot on. It doesn't have the small yellow warning panel which my other diesels have, but that's how it was. They weren't fitted until the mid 1960s, I think. But it's very prototypical for its condition. I really like the weathering on this. You know, it does make it look as if it has run, it has actually worked. It's not just come off the production line. You can see, you know, a bit of dirt around the fan, the exhaust pipe as well. The exhaust pipe, obviously, that's where it gets probably the filthiest, because obviously all the exhaust fumes and stuff collect on there. But the roof looks, you know, very well used. Even the underframe as well. See, I really like the weathering. Let's start at the front. So we've got sprung buffers on all four corners of the locomotive, and I'm pleased to say that the lights do work. So the head code lights up when the locomotive is running forwards. When it's running backwards, the two tail lights work as well. There are no cab lights. The latest versions of the Peak, I believe they do have cab lights. This is a slightly older version. It's kind of in between the one I used to have, which was about 20 years old, and the newest version. Obviously Bachmann have done the Peaks for a very long time. I think even Mainline used to do them, so you know, they've constantly updated the models over the years, so I can't really keep up, like, you know, what features they have. Now, as you see, it's got huge bogies, and you might be thinking, oh, that's quite a lot of wheels. So yeah, this is what's known as a 1 Coco 1. So the Coco wheel set, the driven wheels, are these 6 axles over here. If we get a bit of light, yeah. So these 3 axles and these 3 axles here, so 6 axles in total, they are driven. These 2 axles at either end of the locomotive, these which swivel independently from the bogie, they're not powered, they're just there to guide the locomotive into corners. Now in real life, this particular wheel set here is powered. On the model it's unpowered, because as you can see I can very clearly rotate it, whereas the driven wheels I can't. But I think that's probably to do with the gearing. That's probably like a limitation in the model. But yeah, so it's what's known as a 1 Coco 1. Now, only two such types were built in production: the Peaks, the 44, 45 and the 46, and the Class 40. I am fully aware that there were the Bullied designed about 3 diesel locomotives which had a similar wheel, which had the same kind of wheel configuration, but they were pretty much prototypes. So the Peaks and the Class 40s were the only production diesels to enter service with the 1 Coco 1 wheel arrangement, which, yeah, does make them quite interesting. It also helps with the weight distribution. So, you know, the more axles you have, the more evenly the weight is spread out. And let me tell you something, this model is very heavy. So if this has problems with traction, I'd be extremely surprised, because honestly it's a very heavy model. Yeah. So let's have a look at some of the other detail. You see there's a driver in the cab there, which is very nice. There's its number, D108, and the British Railways Lade crest is applied very well. And here's the cutout for the steam heat boiler, including the steps that lead up to it. And yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, the livery is beautifully applied, and the weathering's superb. I mean, I can't really fault the weathering. It looks so nice. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's got very nice detail on the roof as well. The grills as well, they look, yeah, it's got a nice texture to it. Yeah, I mean, there's not an awful lot to say. Yeah, other than the fact that, you know, it's a beautifully detailed model. It's very nice, much better, much better than the one I used to have. Which I'm not gonna, you know, kind of criticise it too much, because it was a 20-year-old model, and that was a bargain price. That was less, I think that was about 50 quid, I think. I paid more for this, obviously, because it's got better features. But, you know, and as a matter of fact, the level of detail between that one and this one isn't massively different. Like, if I put them side by side, I wouldn't really be able, would have trouble telling like which is the new one, which is like the more up-to-date tooling, which is the older tooling. But I do like the fact that this one does have lights. That one didn't. It was a bit of a shame, but again, you know, it is an old tooling. It's like 20 years old. I don't exactly know when this was released. It must have been within the last sort of 12 to 13 years, because it has the newer style packaging. But yeah, but on the whole, I'm very, very impressed with this model in terms of its appearance. But looks are one thing. How does the model perform? Let's find out. So here we have the Bachmann Class 45 peak on the track, and we're just going to turn the lights on. As you can see, so unlike my older model, this one does have functioning directional lights. If I change direction, the tail lights come on. So let's give it some power and watch it go. Away it goes. So I've put it to halfway speed. This is running in speed. A little bit slow, but it can go faster. I'm just not going to put it to a higher speed, because otherwise the camera will get a bit distorted. But it's got a bit of a growl to it, which I do really like, because it adds a bit of life to it. But yeah, it's running very well, very smooth. Yeah, can't fault the running. Let's get a few shots of her passing. So yeah, lovely runner, really nice. Pretty much the same as my older one, but nonetheless, very good runner overall. So just to conclude this video, I highly recommend this model. It's a fantastic representation of the peaks. Bachmann also do the other two, the Class 44 and the 46. Obviously they look very similar to each other. But yeah, I definitely recommend this model if you are, you know, into peaks, or you just want to model diesels in general. Yeah, very highly recommended by me. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video. Goodbye.